Hello and welcome to another episode of Distraction with me, Zach, the host, otherwise known as GoPrandall, on Prandycast. This is episode 15, I believe. And yes, welcome to the show where I distract you with the things that have been distracting me in and out of quarantine, whether that be movies, TV shows, books, or music. This is going to be just a normal episode this week. I'm going to have a few recommendations, and then might have a bit of a longer chat about something at the end, but it's going to be mainly recommendations about books, movies, and some documentaries I've watched this week, so if you're still in lockdown or already bored of the outside world and want something to watch, maybe give one of these a go. I'm going to jump straight in. Let me open up my notes. And I've watched quite a lot of documentaries this week, so I'm going to jump in with one of them first. The first one is Imagnieering on Disney+. I don't know if people have Disney+, but I'd recommend it. I think I talked about it 1 week before. It's just like nostalgia, just paying literally £6 a month for nostalgia, and I think it's worth it. But Imagineering is it's the story of how Disneyland, Disney World, and every subsequent world and theme park was built by Disney. It's the whole story of like conception, the Imagineers, like engineers, who come up with all the ideas, the different CEOs from Walt Disney to Bob Iger. Really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it. If you're like me and you like the background to things, because I sort of like that sometimes better than the actual things themselves. I want to see how it works. I want to see inside. I want to go behind the roller coaster sort of thing. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. 6 episodes, like an hour a piece, so there's so much to like sink your teeth into. The only sort of issue is that it does have the Disney glaze. So they're never going to tell you, like they do go into some things like, oh, maybe this went wrong or this went wrong. And they're like, this was a controversy, but they'll never really dig into it. They're very, very one-sided of being at Disneyland is the greatest thing on earth. And at one point, no spoilers, when they opened up Disneyland Hong Kong, and then Hong Kong had, was it Hong Kong? Or was it Tokyo? No, Disneyland Tokyo, and there was obviously the massive earthquake in like 2011, and they prided themselves on being a part of the solution to people coming back out and starting to get back into the world again, which I thought was a bit on your high horse. They were trying to say that after the tsunami and the earthquake, not many people knew exactly what to do, and going back to Disneyland was something that they could look forward to and brighten the day. I know there's some maybe hints of truth in that, but it's obviously the rich in Japan. It wouldn't be the poorer people whose houses have been decimated to nothing. They wouldn't be going, oh, let's go to Disneyland. That might be pretty fun. But like, so apart from that, they don't really see the badness of it. And like, there's another one where they want to build a theme park and people people protest it because of the land, and they don't want this big American company coming to their town, and they're trying to be like, well, and they really, really portray the narrative of, well, Disney is an education brand, it's really good, this will give the community, it'll give them money, it'll give them something to do, and you do just have to be on like your wits that Disney is a massive corporation now, and they're not all that nice and smiley, and dreams are dreams. On the other hand, maybe contradict myself, it was really nice to see that the theme parks are still done like hand to hand. Not everything is like just flat out technology. There's still Imagineers. They still have core values from the very first Disneyland. But yeah, if you have Disney Plus, give that a go. It was really, really interesting. I absolutely loved it. The next thing is I read a book this week. I don't know if I have the book anywhere. Yeah, I do. It's called Out of Love, and it's by Hazel Hayes. That's what the front cover looks like. Oh, if you're on like Spotify or Apple Podcast, I forgot to mention. This podcast is now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you prefer to go and listen to it over there, and if you are listening on there, please leave me a review. That's something I always hear all my favourite podcasts say. Now you can do it. Or on YouTube, drop a like. But so yes, that was by Hazel Hayes. It didn't quite show up properly on screen, but yes, it's a YouTuber book. But it's probably one of the furthest things from a YouTuber book that you'd probably be used to. I know when people say YouTuber book, you think, oh, Christ. And I know I go on a lot about YouTube, but it's not. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a love story told in reverse. So this was a really good idea, and I really enjoyed it. And I really like Hazel Hayes' stuff. I have friends who watched her in the past, maybe not as much now. Maybe people who have never watched her before. But this is like a classic love story. It's actually a really, really good book if you like that sort of thing. She is obviously she's a director as well. She's really into Christopher Nolan films, Tarantino films, and you can sort of see that how time is manipulated during the book. So the story's told backwards, but there's obviously there's an interesting thing where you know how there's like segments in movies, like at the end of the first segment in a film. That basically normally is three stages of a film, like acts, the act structure, and she has to put this in the book, not only forwards, like not she doesn't just have to do it forwards where you do like act 1, act 2 and act 3. She has to do it in reverse as well as. So when you get to chapter 4, which is the end of act 1 for you, it's actually the end of act 2 going backwards, and you can actually read the book back to front. And I don't know if I actually might recommend you do that if you do get your hands on a copy, because I read it and I really enjoyed it, and I blasted through the first 2/3 in like a day. It's about a 350-page book, don't know if that means anything to anyone, and I blasted through it. But then I did get to the point where I was like, I know the end of this book is the beginning of the relationship before they meet. Like that's the premise. So the end of the book, first chapter they break up, the last chapter they meet, and obviously really, really cool timeline. She puts lots of different things in the book that you pick up on and you understand more as you read through. So obviously she has to tell these characters and give them an arc backwards, and she does it really well. And you pick up on so many subplots and themes of like depression, bisexuality, those sort of things. Really interesting, but it did sort of hit me. Why do I really care what's at the end of this book? Because I know it's just them getting together. The point of a love story is either a happy ever after, or you want to hear about the juicy breakup, which you've already got through. But maybe I just didn't understand it. Other people might find more of a thrill in that than me. I'd give it a 3. I was going to give it a 3.5, but thinking back to it, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I know I don't rank anything else, but I was just thinking I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah. And also, lots of people on Twitter and YouTube that I've seen read it really, really got emotionally attached and like cried and were like heartbroken. But I wasn't. Mainly because all the heartbreaking stuff happens at the beginning of the book. So I don't know the characters well enough, and by the end I'd be like, okay, that's fair. I don't want to downplay this, and I'm not giving any spoilers, but that's the essence of the book. Definitely go and give it a read. And maybe it's because I picture it as Hazel, the YouTuber, being the main character, and she's not the main character. It's a completely fiction book. But yeah, so I mentioned her in it, so I already had a preconceived idea of the person and the personality. So maybe going into it without knowing the author as a YouTuber is actually much, much better. But yeah, that's Out of Love. Definitely recommend it. If you get it from a local bookstore or Unbound, all links will be in description, like always. The other podcast? Is there a podcast I can recommend this week? No, there's not. I just listen to all the original ones. The Scrubs one is funny. I know I've harped on about the Scrubs one a lot, but because they're doing 2 a week now, I've just completely fallen behind. I must be like 8 podcasts behind now, but they still have like loads of cool guests, so it's a bit upsetting. But yeah, no podcast this week, sorry. The other documentary I watched this week was McMillions. This was fucking amazing. It was on Sky, probably on Now TV. And it's the story of, McDonald's monopoly? It's a story of how McDonald's monopoly in America was rigged from 1989 till 2001. And it's the story of the FBI getting a call in 2000 must be 2001, yeah, fuck it. They get a call in 2001, an anonymous tip of like research these 3 men, and it's the story of them finding out who these men are, discovering that the monopoly was a complete scam. All of the top winners for the 1,000,000, 500, and 100k prizes were all in the same family. At one point, it's described as Al Capone obviously was the biggest gangster of probation when that was happening in America, and this is Jerry Colombo as being the gangster of McDonald's monopoly in the 90s. That's like a fantastic, what's the word? I always have brain farts whenever I do this. That's a fantastic just comparison, basically. It is sort of, if you're really into gangs, if you're into mobs, it has all of that, but then it also has the background of it being Monopoly, and I think it's a really, really good rhetoric for like the westernization and like McDonald's taking over to the point where thugs and mobs are now dealing in McDonald's monopoly rather than money and guns and drugs. I think it's absolutely astonishing. I had a few takeaways from it. If you don't want to know anything about it, you want to just go and watch it, skip 30 seconds. But if not, these are a few non-spoiler thoughts that I've had. One of them was, a midpoint through, you find out that obviously started off with these two FBI agents getting the call and then talking about it, and then it goes on to having the whole FBI, it's somewhere in Florida, their whole department is on this story because it's so big, because obviously it's a national scandal that basically for 11, 12 years, Americans haven't been fairly been able to win. And it said right at the beginning of the first episode that they were going to cancel it in 2001, but the FBI were like, no, continue doing it this year, because they don't know if McDonald's are involved, they don't know if they're not involved, they don't know what's happening, until they're like, right, run it for one last time, and then we'll have a better chance at beating these people and finding them. Obviously, we know it's continued since. I don't know how long it was after they brought it back, but you'll find everything if you go and give it a watch. Really interesting. But like I was saying, so it was originally 2, and then it became a whole FBI department who were going on it, maybe 30 people. But at one point it was eclipsed by 9/11. So once 9/11 was all over the news, they went back down to these just 2 FBI agents in court, and I thought that was really, it was in Atlanta, sorry, when the Atlanta FBI office was on it, it went back to only 2 agents. I just thought that was really interesting, because the same sort of thing happened in Imagnieering, to make a different comparison, when one of the parks was opening and they had a bit of a scandal, then 9/11 happened, and it was completely blown over, and like you'd lose customers, and 9/11 was just such a massive thing. Maybe people who don't live in America might not quite understand, people like me who were only born 2 years before it happened already understand, but it really I find it interesting of how just how much it actually disrupted, like to the point where like there was an FBI investigation where the whole country was revolved around this story, and it gets cut back to 2 people and no one gives a shit anymore. So then, not to spoil anything, that if they do catch the people, if they do find out what was happening, how can they do that without the public support, because now 9/11's taken it away. So that was really interesting. The other thing was, I don't really know if I agree that it was wrong. Ooh, hot take, theft, mob, gangs, but I don't know if I agree, because McDonald's didn't care about this money at all. They put on this whole pretense of like, it's not fair for our customers, they didn't get the chance to win, but their profits increase something like 10% every time they do a Monopoly, which is why they do it at least once a year now, still doing it, and 25 million to them is peanuts, and also that money was going to get given out anyway, so like it didn't really make a difference whether it was going to get given out all to the same family through a gangster, through a guy who was controlling it, or if it was given out fairly. I understand that it's not a fair game, but how many of us really think we're going to win? And how do I say it? It's sort of interesting that you might have had more of a chance of being picked by this mobster to win the money than win the money through fair means. So, and I've always been a person that's been like, when I watch heist films and jailbreak films, I'm like, if someone can rob a bank, because they have insurance, they have all this money, like they don't need it, the massive corporations. If you're someone who could rob a bank and get away with it, would I be too annoyed that you've got away with it? Because that's sort of just spreading the wealth, a bit of Robin Hood metaphor. But yeah, obviously then you can look back and say, well, this wasn't fair for everyone else who thought that they had a chance at competing for this thing, and they just didn't have a chance at all. So I totally understand that, but it is really interesting, and as it goes through, maybe next week, I'll give people a chance this week to listen to it, then next week I'll go into a bit deeper once you find out what was happening, and who was at fault. It's really interesting story, but I'm going to leave it there for this week, so you can go and catch it up, and then yeah, might talk about it next week as well. But my final recommendation, which is why maybe a lot of you clicked on this video from the title, I think the best album of lockdown has just dropped, and that is Some Nights Last for Days by Example. It dropped probably about a week ago now, uploading this, and I know I've talked about Example before and I've talked about this album coming out. Lots of my audience might not really be into house music. this is very much a house music album, which I was really, really happy about. The last album, I think, got a bit techno, and I didn't really like it. I can't even remember the name of it. But like I said, I liked the albums from like 2010, 11, and 12. And that's where we got like Change the Way You Kiss Me, all that era of his music. But this is like banger after banger. There's a few slower songs, but they're still class. It's an album, I'd say 1 or 2 skips. I think it's a bit too generous to say it's an album with no with no skips. But especially the first 3 songs are so poignant for the current climate. He talks about lockdown, talks about like COVID, politics, but not in a way like, say, maybe Beans on Toast does. Or even like, say, a spoken word performer might. He does it a really, really fun way, lots of jokes. I think it's absolute bangers. One of his songs is called Oscar, and it's got loads and loads of features all the way through, like Professor Green is one of them. And I just think it's a really, really fun album. I listen to it like every single day when I go out on my walk. Especially the first one is a freestyle called Paperclips, what we made while he was in lockdown. And I think it's absolutely class. Yeah, I think everyone should go and give it a listen. It goes from like rappy hip hop to house music, not too much techno, a bit slow. So there's some cool like love songs on there. Especially one about his wife, and it's like Wouldn't Change a Thing, something along those lines. And it's a really, really cool song. The only other love song I've ever like really, really liked was by the King Blues, and that's Pure Fucking Love. Fantastic name for a song. And yeah, just songs like that where it isn't all, say, James Blunty type of love, or it's not all I love you to the moon and back, and this, it's like pure fucking love, ironically. It's like, I know a really interesting way, it's like you go and smoke a fag, you're chewing your jaw off on a night, it's like the example one, he's like, but I wouldn't change a thing about you. I don't know, I think it's really, really cute idea. But yeah, definitely go and give that album a listen. I think it's absolutely class. Yeah, I've now run out of things to talk about, and I don't quite know what to say, but I might jump in straight away. Hello, I'm jumping back in. Sorry to cut myself off. I remembered why I was going to make this podcast. I did one recently about how the weirdest thing I'd bought in lockdown, and I'm actually going to update it with the coolest things I've bought in lockdown. The first being, I bought a pottery kit called Sculpdit, and it came with like 2 kilograms of clay, some clay utensils, and it came with some paint and like varnish sealant. See that all together. If you haven't followed me already on Instagram, at goprandall, I made like a short video of me doing some pottery, and I quickly learned that you're meant to use water with it, like in the films, but the directions didn't say anything about water, and I thought you only meant to do that with like the wheel that you see in like Ghost and things like that. But yeah, so it was really, really difficult, and the first thing I made didn't come out that well. It was meant to be a pen pot. But I just wanted to talk about it. It was really, really fun. I feel like it's seen as like a really feminine thing, and like I'm watching How I Met Your Mother at the minute, and Ted goes for pottery classes and they all laugh at him. But it's actually really fun, and a really cool just hobby if you are still bored in lockdown, or if you're struggling to go out and do the hobbies that you'd normally do. Genuinely, I think it was like 40 quid, which was a lot. But the reason I paid that was, if you pay the initial 40 quid, you get the paints, the sealants, and the tools as well. So then after that, I think it's like 9 quid, maybe. And if you pay the 9 quid, you get an extra like half kilogram of clay. And I've been through 1 bag of clay, and I've so far made a little pot that you're supposed to put like knickknacks in. If you're watching the YouTube podcast, I can show you there. Like, it's supposed to be stars and a moon, but I've had to paint over the moon at the bottom, and I am going to paint over that again and draw a better moon. Then I made 2 coasters that have looked like Animal Crossing leaves. Again, if you watch on YouTube, I'm holding one of them up now. Really, really proud of how they came out. They're really shiny. Then I also made, like I said, a pen pot, but whilst I was making the pen pot, I didn't realise that you had to use water, so it was really difficult. It didn't come out that smooth, and after it had hardened, it takes like 3 days to make, because you have to make it, leave it for a day to harden, then varnish it, and then leave it for a day to seal. But by the time I'd left it for a day to dry and then added some more clay onto it, I realised that if you just add clay and mould it, it came a much, much nicer shape, but clay isn't glue, it doesn't just stick to hardened clay, and it began to crack and fall off. So it's a lesson I'm going to learn. I'm going to make some more this week. If any of my friends are out there and want anything, I'm probably going to make some more like little pots that I put my earphones and change in, but I suppose girls could put necklaces. I mean, boys as well can put necklaces and rings in. Yeah, I'm going to try and make a bit of a bigger bowl to put things in, maybe camera SD cards and batteries, because that's something I'm always leaving around. If I had a specific spot, I could put them in. But I think that was absolutely class. I absolutely loved it. I'd recommend it to anyone. 40 quid is a lot, but if you didn't want to pay that, you could just get a bag of clay. Because I assume lots of people have like sealants and paints in the garage, or like parents will have it for them. But I think it was so fun. Like I said, check out my Instagram. I said that I'm gonna talk about it on my podcast, so that's why I'm doing it here. But that's because that goes with the other thing that I bought, which is the weirdest thing I bought in lockdown. I think I talked about. I don't know. It was something like I bought like a pen set as well. Very artsy this lockdown. Really try. I've got this weird obsession now within my lifetime. I want to create just one thing that's like handheld, one like item that's real that I've created, whether that be a book, a movie, an album. I want to create something that I sell to people. I mean, preferably I'd give it away for free. Like I'm not like I want to make money. I want something that like my friends have in their houses, my family have in their houses. The way that Hazel wrote that book, and it's like cool seeing a YouTuber you've watched for years. And the day I actually got it, I'd met her in London 2 years before. I'd gone with two of my uni mates, and like we'd met them in London. And it was like the greatest day ever. That was a fantastic trip as well. Absolutely loved it. I think there's a video on that on my channel. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But like it's sort of like that. I'd like, because at one point I was going to make a zine. I don't know if my friends would be interested. It's not just about my friends, but obviously I don't really have a community of. Like, there's not like I don't have like a podcast or like a camera community. Lots of my friends are interested in like disposable cameras and things like that, and it's really fun. But there's not like a dedicated set of friends I have that would probably buy a magazine off me, or buy like if I did a photo book. I don't know, prove me wrong if you're listening. But I would like to create something, and pottery was one of those cool things that sort of give me a way of doing it. Not that I wanted to sell, but if I could give my friends coasters or little balls, I just have something in me that really enjoys my friends having something I've made in their homes. Same reason I love it when my friends listen to podcasts or watch my videos. I just like to share my stories, or I mean, you can put stories into things like this with my friends. I don't know. That might have been a bit of a weird rant. I can't remember where I was going with it. But yeah, I just thought that was really cool. And where was I going with that? That's funny. I can't remember. But the other thing that I bought recently during lockdown, which I think is absolutely class, if you've ever seen the film Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy with Gary Oldman and an absolute variety of others, who else is in it? Yeah, I've Colin Firth, Tom Hardy, John Hurt, Toby Jones, Mark Strong, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Kieran Hinds. Absolutely stars to the cast. Absolutely fantastic movie. Only watched it for the first time probably this year. I think Josh had told me about it a long time ago, and then Emily definitely reminded me of it to watch again. And I think it's like set, if I'm not wrong, it's set in the Cold War. It's about a retired agent who finds out that there's a mole in MI5, and he has to try and figure it out. I haven't watched it in that long, but on Depop, I just bought the collector's edition. And this is what I think one really cool thing with DVDs. This is where I was going to link into if I ever produce something myself that people could buy. If I was ever to sell a book or a film, a DVD, I'd always make it as cool as something like this, because I love collecting these things. So it came with the film on DVD, Blu-ray, came with a CD of the soundtrack, it came with a notebook, a pack of cards, the book it was based on, so it actually came with the book. Then it came with a set of prints that Gary Oldman, like of pictures Gary Oldman had taken on set. So there's one of like Benedict Cumberbatch, and there's a few of the whole cast like just chilling around, and it's just so interesting. It's such a cool idea that he took these pictures on set and then like they like reprinted them, and if you buy the collector's edition, you can have these like exclusive pictures. I think it's really cool. Definitely the coolest thing I've bought in lockdown so far, I would say. I think it's absolutely class. And yeah, if you have never seen Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, there's another recommendation for you. If I'm not wrong, it's on Netflix at the minute. And I now have, from only seeing the film once, I've now got the collector's edition and steelbook edition and pay for streaming services with it on. So, must be a pretty good film. Not that I can remember it much, but it comes with a lot of cool shit. And if any of my friends know me, which most of you do, I am an absolute pussy for merchandise. just anything with a brand name on, I am drawn to. If we go to London, I want the tackiest things. I don't know, I just absolutely love it all. Probably why I'm interested in media and marketing and advertising. Even as a kid, like, I have so many t-shirts with just, like, logos on, and just, you know, like, the free shit you get. I used to be able to... I remember with Baby Bell, if you collected 3 packs of Baby Bells and sent away vouchers, you could get a lunchbox. I had lunchboxes, footballs, posters, pen sets, like pencil cases. I had so much stuff from, like, Nestle, Mars... Mars bars are Nestle, but like different things. But I had like all the free stuff you send away for, and the paper as well. I used to collect vouchers every single week, and I'd get like a Ghostbuster poster, all this random shit. I don't know, I'm absolutely drawn to it, which is awful because I have like buckets and buckets of stuff in my room I'm pointing at now that is just full to the brim of these things. But then I think it sparked from my uncle showing me a book once, and it was McDonald's Toys Collector's Guide. And he didn't collect them, he just had this book that I think he got in America when he travelled the world. And it was every Happy Meal toy from the moment they came out until like 2005, or because I was quite young when he showed me. And I just found it really fascinating, like, to see all of the toys. I think it was really, really cool. Even cooler if you had them all. Like, I've got the complete set of... Like, since I've been alive, I think I've got most of the Nintendo McDonald's partnership toys, which is a really fucking weird flex, but okay. But I really like them, and seeing this book to be like, oh, I've got that one, or to just see through the ages how the toys change. You always see it on Twitter, like if you remember this. I don't know. I think they're pretty cool. But yeah, that was just a little segment of coolest thing I bought this lockdown. If you've bought something cool this lockdown, let me know in the comments, leave a review, or just give me a message. If you enjoyed, give me a like on YouTube if you're watching there, or again, review. That's it for episode 15. I'll be back next week for a similar sort of podcast with some more recommendations, funny little anecdotes, hopefully. I really enjoyed doing this. Feels like ages since I last did it. I hope you enjoyed it, and again, please come back next week. Thank you.